All right.
Probably, Oloo, the one thing that we don't agree on, mostly, especially that last part that you finished with, we do not agree at all. That it is either right or that this country should continue to look in the way of either organizing, balkanizing, or even preaching that division along ethnic lines is the way to go. Whether you want to call it ethnic organization, whatever name you christen it, we in Jubilee family believe that this country is a better country when we look at things as one, when we move as one. So from this, on that one front, you can disengage us completely with the thinking of NASA. You have seen the NASA leader there right now on news, you know, having to battle a national storm right now, you know, for coming out. And let me say, Debarl, with a lot of respect to the leader of the NASA, the presidential candidate. You know, I've always had, you know, my belief, and I perceive him, one, as a national leader, somebody who's been in leadership for a long time. But I have serious misgivings with some of those things that he has stood for as a leader who has been in the public arena for that long, especially when he declaring that he's one who is running for office of the president to lead this country. And he knows the boundary of Kenya and the acreage of Kenya and the ethnic combination of this country. To go and stand on a public platform and say, ati siwakae kwao, siwarudi kwao, that has no other definition. It is tribalism, it is ethnic mobilization, it is dividing this country, and we should not condone it. Whether it is coming from the leader of NASA, whether it is coming from a common man walking the streets, we must tell him no. And actually, let me tell you, you know, as these headlines reads here today, because we've not discussed them today, that the arrest threats are just hot air. That is what the NASA presidential candidate says. And you can imagine when he is captured there live, telling Kenyans that is the way to go in that section of Kajiado to expel others. Wacha wakae kwao.
So we get away from this debate.
Then he says boldly that arrest threats are just hot air. Tell me, if that leader takes the platform, Senator, if he is able to get an opportunity to lead this country, Senator, why do you expect him to take this country? And that's why I want to say clearly that we must say to them, we must say to him, Senator, this is our country. Yes. We can't allow him, no matter whatever position he holds in society, to mislead this country, to divide this country, and he should face the consequences. Just like every other Kenyan, he should go and, I mean, why did we have all these people?
Okay, fine.
Why did we have all these people?
Just a moment.
My last question is this, Debarl. Why did we have all those Kenyans the other day paraded in court on hate speech? All of them having to go through trial. But it is a misgiving that they were never convicted. But to this extent, this gentleman, this leader of NASA, must also take cue like every other Kenyan. Go there to the door and say, what is it that you're by saying that it is divisive.
I would like to engage my brother, Senator Wamatangi, that he has very cleverly taken a discussion that you are having on a totally different matter and veered into discussing.
That is a matter of
let him finish.
Give me my time, Senator. I told you I highly respect you, and I know you can engage on any topic, and I think I can also do the same. I wanted to say this. We were discussing the issue of the manifesto. Before we came to you raising the issues, which I think are critical. I think it's important for you to raise this matter. I'm not dismissing whatever that you've said. But what we are saying is, and this is what Mr. Oloo said, the truth is, the biggest issue in Kenya today, just the way in America, the biggest issue is race, our biggest issue is tribe. When you find all these manifestos talking about we need a country that is going to be cohesive, that is going to be a united country, that is going to be a nationalistic country, that is all hot air. The truth is, what we practice and what we do with our tribalism has never been an issue of national interest. That is why Senator Wamatangi is willing to jump on a matter that Prime Minister Raila has come up and discussed, which has its merits and demerits. And I will not challenge you on that. But the
I mean,
point...
it's easier to say...
Let him finish.
Allow me to make my case. But the point I'm making, to me, that is very critical is this. Kenyans, whether we have a manifesto that is talking about us going to become a 21st century industrialized country, that is going to be a country that provides all the goodies for every Kenyan, unless we sit down and discuss the critical issues that are affecting this country, unless we look at our tribalism and are honest about it, unless we sit down and look at the land question in this country, whether Raila or Uhuru can go anywhere and talk about they are coming here and they are going to take your land and everything. We know that. The issue, Senator Wamatangi, that we have in this country is that we do not want to sit down and look at the issues about the question of land, the question of tribe, this question of the hegemonic arrangement of the leadership in this country, whereby we take advantage of the vulnerable. We have never sat down in this country to look at the historical issues that are so critical. That is why we've been discussing within the Truth, Reconciliation and Justice. We need to sit down as Kenyans and look.
All right, just a moment. Okay, just a moment. All right, just Senator Wamatangi.
Let me finish.
Let him finish.
Let me finish.
Senator Wamatangi, just a moment.
Let me finish. Just the same way,
just
the same way, a leader can go to Kiambu and take a microphone and talk about Kemondo is the same way you will raise the issue when Raila is going and talking about an issue.
Thank you.
All
right.
Exactly.
Okay, just such a second. Thank you. All right.
It is wrong.
All right, let's hear from Senator Kagwe.
I want to go back to what my brother Oloo said, to do with the fact that in effect, the differences that are there ideologically between the political parties, you know, what are the differences as such? And I want to agree with him on one thing. I want to agree that the reason why the party manifestos are not that different is because, in effect, we do not have strong parties in Kenya. And that is a fact. Whether you call them NASA, KANU, or Jubilee, the truth of the matter is that our politics is more individually based than is party based. And that's why you find the manifestos being more or less, because they are not done from a philosophical, ideological perspective. They are done from a winning perspective. We want to win the elections. Therefore, let's write these things that everybody is going to be very happy about. Never mind, for example, how you finance those issues. Never mind how you get those things done. And therefore, when and that's why we must ask ourselves some very serious questions regarding our political constitution.
Yes.
We must ask ourselves that, you know, as we go from 2010 to now, from 2010 to 2020. By 2020, we must ask ourselves a very serious question, constitutionally, and ask ourselves, do we have a system that addresses our challenges seriously? Seriously. For example, and I want again to agree with Onyonka on this one, on the matter of tribalism, have we really sat down and said to ourselves, we have a problem in our nation that threatens our future security? And this is called tribalism. In the United States, when John F. Kennedy realized that he had an issue of race, what did he do? He started a very unpopular busing system in the US, but he was at least trying to do something about tribalism. In this nation, we had many years when we said, even in our education system, people must stay in their own areas. Yes. You go and educate yourselves in the village so that you don't get to engage in your mother tongue. You don't get to engage others and get to know others. Exposure. You know, exposure and so on and so forth. I have said in this very desk, Debarl, that it is my considered opinion, unpopular as it may be, that all schools in Kenya should be national, that every school should be given money in accordance with how integrated it is, that the more integrated a school is, the more money it should be given, so that we encourage our children not to be like us, so that our children can grow knowing each other and accepting themselves as Kenyans first, and whatever else they are next.
Yes.
And I think that to say that we can continue without addressing this issue, we have addressed it in the Constitution, but this is not just a legislative issue. It is also an education issue. It is a social issue. And I think that unless we address it head on, it is going to continue being a problem in the future. Therefore, if indeed we are friends,
yes,
and we are friends. I mean, you know, if I was in Jakoyo Midiwo's constituency, I want to say here now, knowing how he is, having been with him in Parliament, being with him in Parliament now.
Thank you.
I know what he is like, and I'll vote for him in a day. And I hope his constituencies do. His constituents do, never mind whether he is independent or otherwise. Because we are better off when he is there than when he is not there. So what I'm saying is that let us not as leaders ever lose our heads to the extent that we cannot address our issues. And our issues,
all right, thank you.
challenges.
No. We'll go to Jakoyo Midiwo right now. The question is, of course, why do we address this issue when we are actually going to, general election? So this is a cyclical observation that maybe Kenyans have made right now. Emotive issues will come when we are just about to go to the general election. You'll always bring the issue of the Mau Forest when you're going to go to the general election in 2013. Now is the land issue in Kajiado when you're heading towards the general election 2017. Why do we pick on these emotive issues? Are we also none the wiser of how it can be a tinderbox that will be waiting to explode as we're going to the general election?
It is during electioneering that issues and policies are suggested and are discussed. I was telling somebody yesterday that I find even our campaigns devoid of such action. We are not talking about issues that faces, like the issue of tribalism. Somebody sent to me a video clip 2 days ago where Uhuru Kenyatta was bragging how Kikuyus and Kalenjins did most fighting and they're now reaping the benefits of it.
Yes.
I have the video in a clip.
Yes.
I can play it, but what I'm saying, he said now the Kalenjins, he said the Kalenjins.
I've seen the video myself.
Seen the video?
Yes, I've seen the video.
It's true. It's
only, no, just let him finish. Just let him finish.
Let's be honest.
Okay, we cannot. All right.
Are discussing what?
All right. Okay. Can you just let him finish? Let him finish. Then you will get a rejoinder. Just a moment, please. Just a moment.
Said was that in terms of fighting, the communities that were actually fighting against each other, and have fought against each other are these two communities. Yes. And it is possible for Kenya to come to peace and not to fight because the two communities that were fighting most
but
are
now
together.
Right, thank you. Thank you. So let him make his clarification. Let him finish.
His Excellency did not say that which community was killed most. When he goes to Kisii and says he's calling some people integrated IDPs. The laws and the lawyers, when will the integrated IDP? Governments run using policies. When you use an emotive issue like death, like massacre, to create fear during electioneering, when we come to this bench, we have to ask you, we have to point it out. That is why we wake up to come here. But the bigger thing, Debarl, manifestos must be looked at the end of every term of promise, because it contains promises. Look at the Jubilee manifesto, what they said about land. They will abolish, they will reform land control boards and abolish search fees. Search fees is still there. Abolition of search fees is a simple thing, administrative. They never did it. There's still corruption in land. They said repossess illegally occupied public land without compensation. The amount of compensation which they have done, people who have stolen public land, it is now more in Jubilee than the rest of our 50 years of independence. Corruption. Number two, they said prosecute all land grabbers. Prosecute, especially government officials. What are you saying? What are you saying? From the top. From the top. In Jubilee. Who is not a land grabber? In fact, somebody, a leading politician in Jubilee, I'm told now in Laikipia, has grabbed 10,000 acres of land. That is a manifesto. We are talking about a manifesto. Coming back to their other promises, free meal in primary schools. They promised free mosquito nets. They promised medical research. They promised, you can go on and on. But let me answer Wamatangi as a finish. this issue of the issue raised by Honorable Raila Odinga, the next president of Kenya. Duale just said the other day that everybody who is a Kambas living in Garissa must begin to leave. Nobody made noise. That is the leader of majority in parliament. He's the one saying arrest Raila. Honorable Duale, look at what Mandago said. You are protecting Kikuyus. Kikuyus are Kenyans. They deserve to live wherever they can live. But when Mandago says they will count, if the first 100 votes,
they will see.
They will see. When the first 100 votes
vote for Buseki,
yeah, when the vote
they
for
will
Buseki,
see.
They will see.
Who talked about
Jubilee promised us they will bring peace between Kikuyus and Kalenjins. Who is in Eldoret that Mandago is threatening? Who has arrested him? When Raila talks, then you trivialize what he says. These are real issues. If you go to Coast Province, you cannot campaign and dare them to arrest somebody. You cannot campaign in Coast Province
okay.
and not talk about
let's say from Wamatangi.
From people from a country.
Debarl, let's. I want to make this
and let's not make it a political
as far as I am
campaign
concerned.
platform.
Yes. You have had your time. Let me make this as clear as day, crystal clear. You see, we believe verily in our faith that for example, like to me as a Christian, the Bible tells me we are all equal in the eyes of the Lord. And we also believe that we are all equal in the eyes of the law. And this is our problem. In 2007 and 2008, Kenyans across the entire divide lost their lives. It was out of a contested election. The contestation of that election then found its way for people to kill each other and fight because of the emotive issue and majorly, capitally, on the question of land. Some of the key players at that time, when Kenyans lost their lives, one of the principal players was Raila Odinga. He was one of the principal players. When the consequences of the fight and the deaths of 2007, 2008, let me finish the bar.
Yes.
When they were to be born, and especially through the ICC system, Raila Odinga was not amongst the people who went there. Now, listen, listen to me.
Let him finish. Just let him finish.
Coming to this time.
Just a moment. Let him finish.
Coming to this time
okay, let him finish.
In 2017, when we are going to another election,
yes,
we cannot have a leader who claims that he wants to be president. And I say this with a very clear mind. Kenyans must believe, whether they're in Kisumu, whether they're in Mombasa, that they are equal. And there is nothing that Wamatangi can go and say and get away with it.
Thank you.
Because he's Wamatangi.
All right, just a moment.
Equally, there should be nothing that Raila should go and say in Kajiado. That watch how what wakae kwao.
All right, thank you. Just a moment, Martin.
And then he gets away with it.
Just a moment. Just a moment. All right, thank you. Okay, just a moment.
That is the country we need.
Just a moment. All right, fine. Thank you.
But you see, Debarl, whether my friends in NASA like it or not, we must say this clearly and loudly. If we want to bring up a generation in this country that will believe that we have a new constitution, that we have a future, we must say to the likes of Raila and the others
all right, thank you.
Think that they are
thank you.
all
right, just a moment. Just a moment. I need to make clarification. Yeah. I need to make clarification because if we get this opportunity that we come and shuffle blames, that NASA has said, Jubilee has said, he said, she said, we're not going anywhere. And what is it of benefit to the public when we come here to actually see who actually is more evil or evilier, if there's anything like that, than the other, right? Just a moment. Just a moment. Yes. I agree. Just okay. Can I search me a second to just make my point first of all, because we're here to make constructive discussion that will benefit Kenyans, isn't it? Yes, he said, she said, whoever said. Does it matter? Just a moment.
By bringing out the truth.
Yes, just a moment.
By bringing out the truth.
Okay, just a moment. Let me finish.
That is the way to go.
Of what diametrical or what discernible difference will it make if he said, and we don't go anywhere? Can we move this conversation forward and say, this is the way that we want to go? I want to hear, just a moment. No. I give you time, Kimani Wamatangi, please. Let me just hear from...
We must call the shots and call the truth for what it is. Let's not cover it.
We have called. Yeah, everyone is to blame. No one is caught free. everyone actually is mired in that particular, you know, inflammatory speeches. Yes, everyone
stuck in the
was
mud.
with the Mau Forest, with the land now in Kajiado. That is a foregone
That is
conclusion.
why we
We
all
want,
kept quiet.
just a moment. We
When
want to hear.
Kaiseri-
Just a moment. Just a
No,
moment.
when Kaiseri arrested six people,
Thank you.
took them to court.
All right.
Yes.
That conversation is done. It's done.
No,
Baseline. We're moving on.
They went through the
Thank
system.
you.
They went through the
All right.
court
Thank you.
system.
Thank you very much.
Debarl.
All right. Just a moment. Just a moment. No.
They were released.
Thank you. They were released.
Whatever happened after the judicial
Okay,
process.
okay,
Yes.
just a moment.
It was
All right,
released.
all right,
It
all right,
was
all right.
possible.
Just a moment. Let me.
There should be
Wamatangi,
no
please,
people who are
please.
special.
No, gentlemen. Okay, honorable, please, please, gentlemen. Okay, just a moment. Let's observe some decorum.
Or what do you think?
Wamatangi, let's observe some decorum on this show, and
Yeah.
let's have a
I don't
discussion
wake
that is
up-
constructive.
I didn't
Thank
wake up
you.
in the morning to come and make
Absolutely.
inflammatory
All right,
statements.
it doesn't matter.
And, we are healing
Thank
the
you.
nation.
It's a fact,
All right.
not
We've
inflammatory.
come from far.
And it's my
we
opinion.
know,
Thank you.
we know what potentially we
All
can
right.
be, so we must be very careful in what we're saying.
Thank you. Let's move on, Martin.
I mean, basically what I think is we move on to a debate that makes sense to what we're discussing. These colleagues of mine have time and opportunity with the platforms to talk politics. So surely we are not about...
This platform is
All right,
for
thank you.
people in politics.
Wamatangi, please, just let him finish. Let him finish, please.
I'm informing you that
No. Just give him time, Wamatangi, please.
Maybe
Just
it's
give
me
him
who's in the
time,
wrong
please.
place.
Please, thank you.
Maybe I'm the one who's in the wrong place, but certainly what we want to do is to help Kenyans understand what the issues are. We are busy helping Kenyans to make choices, and basically I'm telling them that they don't have much choices. They have similar players. These players can easily change shirts at any one time. Ask any of them. Any one time, today they are in one party, tomorrow they are likely to be in another. They are also likely to be organizing independent without talking about my good friend Jakoyo. But the point is, and we made it.
Yes,
and we made it. Senator Kagwe said it. Senator Kagwe said it. We do not have strong political parties. And for that reason, we do not see ideologies that span over time. So when you look at what is happening in the UK, you can see what the issues are. Why Theresa May had to be beaten, even though she thought she was going to get there. When you look at Trump, you can see what the issues are and what he's pushing, and he's coming from outside and pushing. So for us, we basically are talking about the same coin, only that there are two different types of the sides of the coin. And so we shouldn't even be, just like it's been explained, there's no monkey or there's no mud that you can smear on any of these political people that you can't smear on any other. So what we want to do for our country is to say a wrong is a wrong, a right is a right,
yes,
and we move forward. So it doesn't matter who it is. We are one country. We must respect each other. Yes, we are in a political process.
Now you're talking.
We are in a political process.
Yes.
But this process will come to an end.
Yes.
I mean, after 8th of August, we will be back to normal, issues of building of a nation. So all these noises and all this confusion and all these colors and all these drums and all these things will come to an end. And on 9th of August, we will be looking at how our children go to school. We will be looking at how we make our investments give us returns, and we'll be looking how the quality of our lives
All right.
go up.
But
Okay.
I think, Debarl,
Yes.
but I think, Debarl, the main point is this, and I think you alluded to it, Oloo. The issue is this. We cannot be coming to the same issues every 5 years.
Yes.
Every 5 years is the same thing,
Yeah.
over and over again, like a beaten, like a record, like a stuck record.
broken record.
There must
Yes.
be a way
Out
of
of it.
addressing to ourselves squarely and saying
Thank you.
to ourselves, do we have the correct, political construct for us to be able to move forward without these things?
Yes.
And that is why I keep on going back to this issue of our constitution. For example, and we must ask ourselves this very, very seriously, is the system we crafted in 2010, the presidential system that we crafted, is it the correct system for Kenya? Is naming only a president and a deputy president the system that we should have in Kenya? I know this is something that people we want to debate, and this is something that people probably want to run away from, because you see, when you make a constitution with too many interests put in place, especially when a president is going to be elected again, and one of the reasons why I would like this question of the constitution addressed in 2010 is because President Uhuru will not be running again. And that's one of the reasons why it is important for us to address this issue at that time, when the issues at hand are issues-based politics, not personality-based politics. And Oloo, And when you talk about informing Kenyans and educating Kenyans in this program, or about issues about politics, the issue is this. When you think about how we crafted our constitution, you know, we have so many interests, so many NGOs, an NGO-led constitution that created a fantastic thing where you have a president here, limited us to 24, to 22 parliament, you know, ministers, and so on and so forth, forgetting that we might politically need to accommodate, you know, other institutions. I mean, all these things are part of the reason why we must address this matter. And it doesn't matter where in the country you come from. It is a question of the stability, the future stability of Kenya. You want our children and their children to be a lot more stable and to live in a nation where they know the institutional framework that is in place is such that it is very difficult to destabilize our country.
All right. Thank you. Let's just hear, just a moment, we hear from also the social media. We'll come to you, Wamatangi, and we have Usha Jose standing by to give us that particular portion of your say and hear what also people are saying on social media as well.
Right, so very heated debate going on in studio and on social media as well. I see this seems to be one of the conversations that has people split. So straight to it, we have Albert who says, sorry, I think I'm just going to refresh that. Moving on to Twitter, we have Samuel who says, Raila must have made such comments, but is wrong for those who have it's wrong for those who have taken the time to expound more than its basic meaning. We also have Eric who says, at this point, Rao remarks can't be scrutinized from a sober point of view, already politicized, let it go. We also have Ngugi who says Raila ought to go through trial because of hate speech. Why incite people as a leader? We also have Dick who says the team is right. We are yet to tackle the tribalism issue in Kenya and we need to get this done for our children in the future. Very, very valid point there. We have Vijay who says Kenyans are so naive on Manifesto. We are totally on tribes. There's Mikey who says you cannot fix a broken system with a broken system. A new system is necessary. There's also Frank who says the Jubilee Manifesto has successfully failed. All they promised from laptops to stadiums to low cost of living are all a fallacy. And we finally have David who says the reason we have similar party manifestos is because we have recycled the same players over and over again. I think I'm going to throw this to Martin. Martin, do you agree with this?
Good one. All right. That's a good one. Debarl,
it's
sorry.
I had directed it to Martin, I think, for neutrality, maybe.
Sorry, on that one?
David says the reason we have similar party manifestos is because we have recycled the same players over and over again. Do you agree with that?
Basically, that's it. I mean, our politicians are the same players. And I said the only thing that they change are jerseys. One time they are playing for Real Madrid, the next thing they are on Barcelona.
Don't go there. That is a very emotive.
exactly what I had wanted to say to
Okay, can we let Usha just finish? Yeah, just a moment.
What Mutahi had said is similar. I just wanted to comment on that because, you see, when Mutahi was asking, how can we stop going back to these things all the time, every 5 years? And the answer is simple. It's in that Twitter. You know, as long as you continue to have the same leaders over and over again, who have led us to disaster, who have led us into chaos, into death, then what else do we expect?
Remember, it's the same people who elect those same people.
Over and over again. And expect the same people who elect.
Let Usha finish. We'll come back. We'll come back. We want to see what is the way forward. Thank you. Usha, continue.
Right, so that was actually the last tweet that I had sampled. Evoked a lot of debate. Remember, you can still keep the conversation going. AM Live and TV, that is how you can chime in on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. We are also streaming live, so head on down to our Facebook page, that is AM Live and TV, and you get to watch the show. Back to you, Debarl.
Thank you. Evidently, we seem to be having a problem as a country. Of course, cyclical issues, they appear every 5 years. Why do we gloss over these issues, and what will be the, the prime solution that can be brought to bear to address these issues? Land is very emotive when it comes, of course, to general election. Tribalism, it seems to really surfaces on the fore when it comes to general election. Why do we gloss over these issues? How do we move forward from here, Jakoyo Midiwo?
Debarl, let me agree with Senator Kagwe. First of all, let me say that Oloo is a politician. He keeps talking like he's not a politician. Oloo, as I know, has been a candidate many times. He has been accused. Even this flip-flopping.
Now you're taking on me.
Even on either side.
You're not sounding right.
You're a flip-flopper. That's what they're saying.
We have something called TJRC report, which came to Parliament. And we had this controversy when Duale and the ilk insisted that some names had to be expunged before it can be dealt with. You know, when Jubilee Manifesto says they're going to deal with land grabbers, then they can't, because they know most land grabbers or all land grabbers in the Jubilee are on the Jubilee side. They then come and expunge names. So who there's nobody left with in the TGRC report as recommended and as passed. And that is the government of the day. The truth is, I wanted to ask my good friend, Honorable Kagwe, we must look to the future. And what would it be on the 9th of August if Jubilee was put back in power and Uhuru, my friend, was now the president, but Ruto was still the deputy? What would it be looking to 2022? What would we achieve as a country? No, it's not good to shy away from this debate. As Kenyans, what would it portend to us if the going-ons in Jubilee were led to continue under the current circumstances? Would things get better or would they get worse? Would we continue importing maize by creating shortage, or what would it happen? Would we get laptops by putting 53 billion and people eat it? Or what is this in this country that we are shying away from discussing so that our electorate can go to the ballot when they are informed and know that things could get worse or get better?
All right, let's say from
He asked me a question. I wanted to answer.
Yes. Yeah, let's get from Onyonka. We'll answer, sir.
For me, I think it is very interesting that we are having this debate today,
yes.
Debarl. Senator Mutahi Kagwe, I totally would want to support you. And let me tell you why I'm doing this. And I'll come to what my brother, Senator Matangi, said. We need to start rethinking this country. We need to start sitting down and honestly looking at the issues which perennially and every 5 years that make us reach to the brink of the precipice. And I think we have the capacity, we have the personnel, we have the intelligence, we have got everything that it takes. But it will need goodwill. I think it needs people of goodwill in this country who are willing to say, yes, we may have certain things which we hate you about, but let us try and see whether these things are legitimate or not. I also would like to say that, like Senator Matangi said, no leader in his sound mind, in his logical way of thinking, should say anything that hurts people in this country, whether it is Prime Minister Raila, whether it is Uhuru Kenyatta, whoever it is. And we need to start asking ourselves, what happens when you find a leader? And by the way, many people who I know, who live in North Rift in Eldoret, and they come from the members of the Kisii community, they are telling some of us that we are beginning to start thinking psychologically that maybe we need to start moving out of Eldoret, because what Governor Mandago talked about, that if we voted for Buseki, who happens to have a wife from the Kikuyu community, who then has gone and persuaded the Kikuyu community to vote for him. And these guys are giving war cries, and they're actually warning Kenyans that we will ask you to vacate. Why is nothing done about that? Why are we not sensitive enough to understand that the same Kenyans that we keep talking about, how we are a people who love each other, how we are a people who believe in unity, and we are people who go to church and we pray every Sunday, we are the same people who come out and we say things about ourselves which are just shocking.
All right, gentlemen.
Let me just say this.
Yeah.
Let me just respond.
Take a shot at it. Also.
Let me just respond to one thing. Yeah? I think as Kenyans, we must condemn with equal measure anybody who threatens Kenyans. Two things, Debarl. First and foremost, there is a Kenyan from one tribe or another in virtually every small town in this country.
Yes.
Everywhere in this country. If you come to Nyeri town, you will find people from all walks of life, from each and every community of Kenya. They live in Nyeri. If I stood up in Nyeri and say that, that's a bad thing. All right? So I cannot stand in Kajiado, and I want to say I was disappointed with the Prime Minister myself. You know, because I've got respect for the Prime Minister. I was disappointed. But the emotion that came out of me is disappointment. Just like I was disappointed a while back when he talked about people not paying rent. And I actually told him myself that, you know, this is not a correct politics. If you want to protect properties, people must pay. All right? You know, if I have a hotel, I can't people come into and staying in my place for free. All right? Just like I can't build a house for people to live in for free. And it is basic politics. So when you stand there and you say that people must go, you know, Nyona is right. There are Kisis living in Kajiado. There are Kikuyus, there are Kambas, there are everybody living in, there are Oloos living in Kajiado. So my view is that we must condemn in equal measure. Just like we said when Duale spoke, you know, about Kambas in Garissa, it was wrong and we condemned it. Some of us condemned it because it is not correct. But I think that, and when Mandago also makes those kind of statements, you know, and threatens, you want to ask yourself, who are you threatening? You know, who exactly are you threatening? And let me ask you, Debarl, where is this place on earth where there are some people you can kick out with no problem to yourself, all right? With no problem to yourself. If you attack somebody, you can be sure that that somebody is also going to attack back, all right?
Yes.
You cannot tell somebody, move out of this land. This somebody, they have spent their money there, they have got their house there, and you expect to get away with it scot-free. So in other words, these are things that inflame the nation. And in a manner of speaking, it is taking advantage of poverty. And there is poverty everywhere in Kenya. Let nobody cheat us.
All right.
There is poverty everywhere. So in terms of uniting us, because let's look for a way forward. In terms of uniting us, I think there are two things. Number one is that people who have got something to lose never fight. People who have got something to lose. Debarl, if somebody driving out of Mathare, riding out of Mathare or Kibera with a bicycle, if you have a bicycle, nobody can put a bicycle down to start throwing a stone because you want to protect your bicycle. So in the long term, medium to long term, what we must make sure is that Kenyans are busy working.
Busy working.
Yeah. In the UK, how many people have land?
Thank you. Let's say from Wamatangi.
Let me continue this and then Wamatangi.
Let's say from Wamatangi will come to you.
Nobody wants land because they are busy doing other things.
Thank you.
So land cannot be the thing that our children and their children will continue holding as if it is life and death. That's not the future. The future is not in land. The future is in other economic activities that earn people a living.
Thank you.
By the end of the day, it's not about owning land. It's about being ably occupied.
Wamatangi.
Debarl, I wanted to take a very quick tour of history, and we need to address this. Personally, as my own philosophy, I believe in walking straight, talking straight, and saying the hard things and making sure that we hold people to account. For me, I find it easier to call a spade a spade. If you look at our history quickly, and from 1992 backwards, since when we gained independence, yes, there were strifes and strains on land ownership and relationship. But it is from 1992 that a new means and way and method of asserting and imposing political will against others ethnically and especially on the question of land was manifested and grown progressively. It was used, limitedly in 1997, onwards 2002, it blew off in 2008. And if we are seriously going, because personally, I am willing to sacrifice anything, but I want to say this morning I was amongst the first Kenyans who were called here to a place called Kiambu to go and receive the first IDPs in 2007, 2008, and go and settle them in places like a camp called Kiradimo, some places in my own place here in Kiambu, in Kiambu. People who were desperate, who had lost their lives, children who were maimed. And you know, we watched this happen and stood over it. And we cannot now have come to leadership at this time and fail to call those who were responsible that particular time and tell them you cannot continue this way.
Thank you.
So, you see, and I want to laud what Senator Kagwe has said. We must ensure that this comes to an end. And we are not going to slay the father demon and let other boy and baby demons again start to grow up to perpetuate this, whether it is in the names of those new upcomers in the same philosophy, Mandago, like you have said, if it is any other of those that are coming up. We have to say to them, we want a better country, we want a better way to have to assert politics.
Thank you.
But not to divide.
Let's hear from Martin. We have also two callers hanging on the line. And Robert hang on the line.
I want to tell our leaders who are on this table that we are a product of our own society. Today, my good friend here, a man I have a lot of respect for, I mean a Kenyan, called Mutahi Kagwe, is out. He lost in primaries. And there are so many candidates today, when you look at them in Kiambu, when you look at Nairobi, you can't tell the difference. The problem is not NASA, the problem is not Jubilee. It's the citizen, it's the Kenyan. When those statements are being made, what are Kenyans doing? They are cheering. When they are being incited, what are they doing? They are cheering back. So when they turn on each other, who will be turning on each other? Will it be leaders or citizens? So let us call it a spade and tell our people that, in fact, there's nothing wrong with our constitution. We have every good intention in the constitution. But who believes in it and who is ready to fight for it? So at the end of the day, leaders are as good as the followers. Because followers make choices of the people they like. So when we see Kenya, we must also look at it in that context, that our leaders are a product.
Thank you. All right, let's just, before we come to Jakoyo Midiwo, we have Kinyua and Robert hanging on the line. Let's just hear what the callers have to say this morning. Good morning, Kinyua.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Very briefly, sir, you have a question or a contribution?
Yes, I have a contribution.
Yes.
First of all, let me say, Debarl, that it's not wrong to advise, right?
It is not.
What the Right Honorable Raila Odinga did, he simply advised the Maasai people, please don't sell your blood because of poverty, because you don't have food on the table. You just be patient with the land till after August 8, then we get to power, then we'll bring the cost of living down, and then, don't sell your land because of poverty. Just be patient. That's what Raila Odinga did. He did not decide people. Another thing, we have problem with our constitution, because the 2010 Kenyan constitution doesn't define what hate speech is. Hate speech is defined by the NCC through the NCC Act. And to look at the case of Pangani 6, those cases, almost all the cases, if not all, have collapsed. Why? Because the courts, the prosecutors, the judge, the entire court system, they have problem with defining what hate speech is.
Thank you.
So I think if our constitution could just define hate speech, and that's called for amendment again, hate speech clearly.
Thank
that
you.
Will help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right Honorable Raila Odinga did not incite. I think he just advised, and you can even play the clip because you have. Thank you, Debarl.
Thank you so much. Let's hear from Robert as well. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Debarl.
Morning to you. Question or a contribution?
Good morning, every panelist.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have a question, a very simple question to Honorable Wamatangi.
Yes.
We are all aware, according to the Constitution, that the presidential seat is a 5-year term or a 10-year term. And we are all clear that Moi went home. We are all clear that Kibaki went home. Why don't we remove this thorn in our flesh about Raila? We give him either 5 years or 10 years. We let him go. Let me start a new chapter. So that we please.
All right. I think yeah.
Nobody has asked the question.
Okay, he's made his point. Okay, should we hear from Jakoyo before you answer? Yeah, it's okay. No, but we promise Jakoyo. No, you'll be given the time. Let's just hear from him, then we'll come to you.
What happened? What happened while I was away with Mutahi?
I think you are the problem.
He's not happy.
Okay, very briefly.
Jakoyo, he was very quiet.
What I wanted
very
to
briefly,
say,
we'll stop for time.
first of all, Kinyua, that is intelligent because we have not said what Raila meant. Say, don't sell your land for food. We are going to lower the cost of living in 60 days. And it's true, NASA will do it. The fact. Number two, the other guy who wants Wamatangi to remove the flesh, the thorn in the flesh, he is asking you to vote for Raila. Stop the fear. Rid yourself of the fear. But what I wanted to say, Debarl, you know, the president, there's something very interesting I see which is related to this. Every day I see the president and his people talk. They're saying we are going to have peaceful elections and never again will we not fight, or will we fight, never again will we fight because of electioneering. But the president is not talking about free and fair elections, saying peaceful, free and fair. Who is planning what so that there is peace even when elections are stolen?
Thank you.
That to me is a question maybe we will need to discuss like moving forward. So that I can't sound like Wamatangi. We are very different. But just
all right, thank you.
I just wanted to say
thank you.
That I want to ask Wamatangi to take this home. That we are jittery. This call for peace without free and fair, we are seeing through it. So we are watching.
Thank you, Wamatangi. Very briefly, as we're winding up.
I just wanted to reply to that last caller who said that we should give him the last another 5 years. But I say this very quickly. One, I realize that that Raila has said that he wants to play the role of Moses and Joshua at the same time, you know, and of course rewrite the Bible story. I don't know whether he's able to do that. But my point is this: I don't know why most Kenyans have forgotten, and especially like our caller there, that under the system that we had when Raila was Prime Minister, under that system, Raila rose to the highest possible office in the land. We had a parliamentary system then, and he rose to the position of Prime Minister. He had a clean 5 years at the top of the helm.
Did not rise, you stole his votes.
Why is it still an issue of discontent that even after getting his shot at those 5 years, you still want to say that he wants another 5 years? Right, he had his time to prove himself under that system. Thank you. And they both should have gone home actually with Kibaki. It's only that he stayed backwards. They should have both gone home indeed. They were both there. My friend, under that, it was a 50-50 government.
No.
It was a coalition government. They both got Prime Minister and President. They both played the same. They should have both gone home. We don't have time to wrap it up.
The two of them should have gone home.
Thank you, Wamatangi. All right, we've established. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much.
There is a question I was asked.
You'll answer that question next week. It's almost 45 seconds.
I wanted to tell him that he asked me whether Kenya will be better or worse off with Uhuru as president. I want to answer him very simply. Kenya will be a very stable, good country with Uhuru as president.
Thank you.
And corruption continuing.
All right, let's leave it at that.